take a seat. Right over there, sat on the stairs, stay or leave. The cabinets are bare and I'm unaware of just how we got into this mess. Got so aggressive, I know we meant all good intentions. So pull me closer, why don't you pull me close? Why don't you come on over, I can't just let you go. Oh baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle, baby. Why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle. Oh, take a step back for a minute into the kitchen, floors are wet and taps are still running, dishes are broken. How did we get into this mess? Got so aggressive, I know we meant all good intentions. So pull me closer, why don't you pull me close? Why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle. Looking at you, I can't lie. Just pouring out admission, regardless of my objection. Oh, and it's not about my pride. I need you on my skin, just come over, pull me in, just. Oh, baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle, no, no, baby. Why don't you just meet me in the middle? Oh yeah, I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? Oh, in the middle, baby. Why don't you just meet me in the middle, baby? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle, middle, in the middle, middle?
Happy life with the machines scattered around the room. Look what they made it for me. Happy technology. Outside the lions run, feeding on remains. We'll never leave, look at us now, so in love with the way we are. Here, the world play life with the machines scattered around the room. Look what they made it for me. Happy technology. Outside the lions run, feeding on remains. We'll never leave, look at us now. So in love with the way we are here. The world that the children made. The world that the children made here. The world that the children made here. The world that the children made. Here. The world that the children made here. The world that the children made. Look into my eyes. Won't you come see about me? I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby. Tell me your troubles and doubts, giving me everything inside and out. And love strange, so real in the dark. Think of the tender things that we were working on. Slow change may pull us apart. When a life gets into your heart, baby, don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me. Will you stand above me? Look my way, never love me. Rain keeps falling down, down, down. Will you recognize me? Call my name or walk on by. Rain keeps falling down, 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 down. your defenses, vanity, insecurity. Don't you forget about me. I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby. Going to take you apart. I put us back together at heart, baby. Don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me. As you walk on by, will you call my name? As you walk on by, will you call my name? When you walk away, or will you walk away? Will you walk away?
Gentlemen, family, and friends, welcome to Sage Creek High School. We're going to go ahead and get things started shortly. We'd like to ask you at this time if you could go ahead and start making your way to your seats.
Call my name. I say la 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 la
Some people want me to be heads or tails. I say no way, try again another day. I should be happy, not tipping the scales. I just won't play, letting my life get away.
I write blog posts to inspire my community to work on their cars.
I brought a new love for the outdoors and an active lifestyle to students here at Sage Creek through a brand new hiking club.
My idea was to raise awareness of mental health and suicide by teaching kids to use art as a positive outlet.
My idea was to blog about my hiking experience and provide pictures for my community to see that the outdoors is a fun place to exercise.
I created a short film using 35mm film to help seniors remember their senior year in Carlsbad.
I worked with school administration to install water bottle filling stations at Sage Creek.
My idea was to interview different groups of people and create a video consisting of their life experiences and advice that I think should be heard.
I made bracelets for children in hospitals.
I'm working on bringing beach bonfires to Carlsbad and making them attainable by our general community.
I created a Black Student Union that highlights Black culture and academic success for not only the Black community, but everyone here at Sage Creek.
I created a summer bridge program for incoming freshmen who struggle academically and provided them with the skills they need to succeed in high school.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sage Creek High School. We'd like to welcome you to the Genius Project Symposium. And without further ado, give a warm welcome to your hosts, Brad Nelson and Montesi Deschamuk.
24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe, so clear. Look out.
Good morning, good evening, and welcome to the second annual Genius Project Symposium.
My name is Montesi Deschamuk, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Brad Nelson.
We've got some incredibly talented individuals to showcase y'all tonight, and we're also honored to be sharing the stage with them.
Last year's symposium really left a lasting impression on Sage Creek students, so much that the speakers tonight are going to raise the bar higher than ever. The senior medley video just showcased only a smidgen of what our speakers will bring to us tonight.
And I've got no doubt that they will raise that bar. You know, some of these seniors put more work into their project this year than I put in my entire senior year.
I relate so hard, but before we bring out our lovely speakers tonight, let us take the time to honor the backbone of this project, the staff and the district.
You know, Sage Creek is a community, and without the help and dedication of many people involved with this Genius Project, we wouldn't be standing up here being the geniuses that we are today.
No siree. You know, a great man once said to me that being a part of this great Sage Creek community is like living the dream, baby.
That's right. So let's give a huge holler out to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Morales. Countless hours of dedication have been put into Sage Creek High School by this amazing principal. And if you don't believe us, just scroll through his Instagram and look at that 3,950 posts on that Instagram documenting Sage Creek's history.
That's a lot of posts.
Oh, yeah.
And let's make sure we give a big Bobcat roar to our superintendent, Dr. Churchill, and the Carlsbad Unified School Board.
But where would we be without the Carlsbad Educational Foundation and those board members, man?
And we definitely can't forget where it all starts, which is right here at Sage Creek. So let's give a round of applause to our PTSA and the Sage Creek Foundation.
But you know what? None of this would be at all possible without our amazing Sage Creek staff, parents, teachers, and alumni who they just really put in overtime, you know, helping out with various camps, you know, science, grants, and most of all, mentoring these innovative students.
You know, Brad, it's funny that you mentioned innovation because, lo and behold, tonight's theme is Innovate. The power of innovation really pushes the boundaries of what couldn't be achieved before and can set the standard for something new.
I think you'll find that this power of innovation is prevalent in almost all of our seniors' projects tonight, regardless of whether or not they completed that project months ago or are still working on it to this day.
You know, you don't have to be an Einstein to create something innovative. You just have to sprinkle a little creativity into your ambitions. And what can I say? I guess that makes me a high-class chef. Let's see what's cooking tonight at Sage Creek.
Tonight, we have hand-selected 9 individuals to share their odyssey through the Genius Project. And a little bonus content here, we even have 6 filmed interviews with 6 additional Genius Projects for your viewing pleasure by our very own Anya Kern.
You know, Brad, I'm getting a little bit
Good?
of a cough.
You need Robitussin? Robitussin, coming right up! Robitussin!
Is anyone else feeling a little under the weather here, or is it just me? For many of us still battling the flu, which, by the way, has overstayed its welcome for this season, right? It's very important to get rid of that pesky bacteria fast and efficiently, especially on many of our devices, such as our phones. Enter Alexis McBride, who took an innovation with iPads and UV light to get rid of those bad bacteria. Please give a warm welcome to Alexis McBride.
I am a bit of a germaphobe. I don't like being around sick people. I compulsively wash my hands. I take vitamins religiously and generally try to avoid catching the plague, like any sane person would do. Those of you who are AP and honors students know that missing school only creates more work for ourselves. Not to mention, each student absence costs the school between $30 to $50. This might not sound like much, but the costs add up when Carlsbad Unified School District has an average of 441 daily absences. If we estimate that 50% of these absences are due to illness, that means that the district is losing $9,000 a day to runny noses and coughs. So, when I sit down to a likely never before cleaned iPad at my desk in math, I wince a little. My mind wanders to all the people who have touched, coughed, and sneezed on the tablet before me. I don't know if Typhoid Mary from period 3 covered her cough, and I am certainly not willing to risk missing even a couple precious days of school at home recovering from whatever disease is circulating Sage Creek this week. For this reason, my genius project was to create a new iPad cart with UV technology that could both sterilize and charge the iPads at once. UV lights are already used in hospitals, laboratories, and even the goggle storage cabinets here at Sage Creek because they're able to kill bacteria by denaturing their DNA. As some of you might know, our current iPad carts are essentially rolling cabinets with Apple charging cables and locks. Each math classroom has between 30 to 40 iPads, so any sort of sterilization solution would have to be very time efficient in order to be reasonable. Amazon sells UV sterilizing wands for $50 a piece, but this solution is both pricey and time consuming, as students would have to individually clean each iPad. With my challenge laid out for me, I began to design a plan to fix the iPad issue. Before I created a physical solution to the iPad problem, I first had to prove that the problem actually existed. I started by creating an experimental design to determine the quantity of bacteria on the surfaces of our iPads and how they were affected by UV lights. Fortunately, through experience as president of the Biomedical Sciences Club here on campus, I was already connected to several professionals who were able to help me polish my design and ensure that my results were statistically significant. I specifically remember, after meeting with my primary mentor over coffee, one of her first comments being, "Well, it's pretty good for a high school student." While this wasn't exactly the feedback I had been hoping for, it was definitely the feedback I needed. Undaunted, I submitted an edited version to my second mentor and finally received the positive feedback I had been hoping for. Whether my early mistakes were due to lack of specificity or simple inexperience, I rewrote my experimental design, excited to apply the new knowledge I had gained from my meetings. Shortly thereafter, I completed my pilot experiment, from which I was able to learn from my mistakes and make a few adjustments before going through with trial 2. The second trial was very successful, and I was able to obtain all the data I needed from Greasebox, Turner's, Menente's, McLean's, and Woolley's classrooms. Fair warning, these next photos may make you never want to touch an iPad again. As some of you might be familiar, agar is usually a yellowish clear color. However, this agar is specially formulated with sheep's blood and non-pathogen specific antibiotics, which allow for only pathogenic bacteria to be grown. This means that each and every colony you see here has the potential to infect a student. Luckily, if you're in Ms. Woolley's class, you're probably safe because she wipes down her iPads with Lysol every few days. I could now confidently confirm my 2 hypotheses. Pathogenic bacteria did in fact exist on the iPads, and this bacteria could be eliminated using UV lights. Shortly after finishing my research, I received a grant from our generous Sage Creek PTSA, which allowed me to purchase the materials I needed in order to create a working prototype. Now, I had the research, I had the funding, I had everything I needed. I just had to put it all together. Yet somehow, this was the hardest part of my project. I spent hours online and in-store shopping, which normally would be fun, except that I was looking through hundreds of Sterilite and Rubbermaid containers, various wavelength producing UV lights, and other incredibly exciting components that I needed in order to create a working prototype. I will be the first to admit that I felt a little out of place in the electrical aisle of Home Depot without a flannel or beard. But with the help of some excellent customer service, I eventually found everything I needed. While I was able to rely on past experience from science courses for the research phase of my project, I found that I had absolutely nothing to go off of when it came to safely wiring the cabinet or using power tools. Luckily, I was able to enlist the help of my very handy dad one weekend, whose assistance probably saved me from losing a couple of fingers. We drilled holes in the backs of the plastic cabinets and used epoxy glue to mount the UV lights. I also installed an automatic timer with a 5-minute shutoff that would prevent the lights from being left on for an extended period of time. At last, my prototype was complete. I now had a working iPad cart capable of charging and sterilizing the iPads at once. My plan is to donate my prototype to the math department so that my project can continue to have a lasting impact on Sage Creek, saving hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars by preventing student absences. My takeaway from this project is that when you find something you're passionate about, organize your goals into achievable tasks and take advantage of the resources around you. You might be surprised by what you find. For me, I found a vast inventory of knowledge right here in Sage Creek in the form of my 2 mentors. I didn't even have to look outside of my own school for project funding. Looking back, this experience will also be incredibly helpful to me as I pursue a professional career. Designing a lab, conducting an experiment, and building a prototype were all tasks that I was very unfamiliar with. But by challenging myself to complete them, I grew both as a scientist and as a person. Now, I don't even care who touches, sneezes, or coughs on the iPads, because I know that my own innovation can be used to prevent the spread of disease here at Sage Creek. Thank you.
What an illuminating project, but you know, might have to start bringing some gloves to calculus now. At least until the sterilizing carts can make those iPads safe to use again. All right, up next, we have 2 budding young programmers who just so happen to be the developers of our very own Sage Creek app. Not only is this app available to download on the App Store, but they're continuously adding more and more updates to it all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyler Jung and Daniel Moran's Sage Creek app. We're having some technical difficulties, so just give us just 1 minute, and we'll get Tyler Jung and Daniel Moran's app up and running.
Hi, I'm Anya.
There's pink on the floor. There's pink on the floor. That's where you walk through the gate.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Daniel.
Nice to meet you. And so what were the first stages of your project?
So when this Hours first introduced the project to us, like I came up with the idea of an app. I decided to partner with Daniel, and over the summer we like researched how to create an app, and like we ended up figuring out how to do it.
What was the greatest challenge throughout the whole process?
Usually if there's like one little tiny error in the code, like the whole thing won't work. So like finding that like tiny error like could sometimes be annoying. So that's really like one of the hardest challenges.
Another challenge I think is like as time goes on, they update like the software, so we'd have to keep like learning new things as it went on, or else we'd get confused and be like, why isn't this working?
So it seems like a frustrating process.
Yeah.
How did you stay motivated throughout it all?
I think our motivation was our community impact in the end, affecting, like we have about 400 downloads now, and as years goes on, new kids will come and start using it more. And I think it was that impact that really drove our passion.
That's great. That's amazing. So how will you expand or continue the app after you're gone?
So like a majority of our app is like automated, so like we don't have to update it. Like it automatically updates online, which will update our app. So like we're hoping that like for future generations we can only make like minor tweaks and like it'll still work perfectly fine.
Yeah, so like right now we have different sections, and one of them is like the Sage News. So whenever you guys like post new news articles, it automatically refreshes there. Along with like we integrated Max Preps into the sports section. So instead of us filling out like the sports news and schedule stuff like that, Max Preps does that and just automatically updates there.
What are your favorite features of the app?
So we both play sports, so I guess it's the sports section. It's just kind of nice, like seeing it, because all of our friends here at Sage are playing in sports teams. We can constantly see like how they're doing, like congratulating them, so, like stuff like that, and get more people to the games because they know where it's at and like what time.
Yeah.
So probably like the notifications, because like we can send notifications from like a computer and it sends it out to everyone and shows up on their phone without them like opening the app.
That's really cool. So you guys went really detailed with the app.
Yeah, so we originally had a first version, like we wanted to push out like a very basic one before school started, like bell schedules and stuff, so people can always check that. But then like as time had gone on, we added like finals calculator, push notifications, stuff like that, so it's keep getting better.
Were there any major bugs that almost like stopped the project, or did it go pretty well?
It went pretty smoothly, I would say, but for like the finals calculator, like we would like when you type in your text for the like numbers, like it was hard to figure out how to close the keyboard. Like if you tap out, like it would close the keyboard, but like we couldn't figure out the code for it. It took us like a while.
I feel like we learned that there's a lot of like little things that we just like take for granted on our phones that just work by themselves, but it's like a bunch of people like behind that like makes it so nice to use.
Yeah, that's super cool. So do you have a parting message for the Sage Creek community?
Probably just like if you find like a small passion, stick with it and just keep pursuing it no matter like what people say.
Yeah, you can probably like surprise yourself with what you can do if you're doing something you're passionate about. So yeah.
Great. Thank you guys.
Amazing design, guys. I use the app myself and I can say it's a total success. Our next speaker, Camden Miller, has put her heart and passion into something she's so dedicated to, and that is surfing. She's out there hanging 10, but most definitely giving her 100% into the community and the impact she will leave behind. Please, welcome to the stage, Camden Miller.
Living in Southern California, we are surrounded by the surf and skate culture that encompass the daily lives of many, including myself. I have been involved with an organization called Christian Surfers since I moved here in 8th grade. It was around this time that I really started getting into surfing. When the Genius Project was introduced toward the end of my junior year, I knew this would be the perfect opportunity to raise money for Christian surfers and to get the community involved. So I decided to put on a surf contest. I went online and found the information for the City of Carlsbad event coordinator, and I gave them a call. After consulting with Julia Mira, I decided to host the contest at Ponto. There we go. This location was more ideal for participants and setting up the equipment. When summer 2017 hit, I began my project. One day while I was at work, this man came in, and he started talking to me about how he was starting up this brand new surfing magazine. I told him that I was planning on putting on a surf contest to raise money for a local Christian organization. I was beyond excited when he asked me if my surf contest would be the first feature in his new magazine. The more conversations I had with this man, he started throwing out these crazy ideas about having food and games and even a virtual surf simulator, which all sounded epic. I shared with him how one of my biggest problems with this, putting on the event, that is, was the fees. He quickly shut down any doubt I had by saying that we could get vendors to come set up and sell their product, and we would use that money to pay for the contest. It all sounded convincing, and I was easily reassured until he went back on his word, and I realized that everything he had told me up to this point wasn't true. When I found this out, I decided to not work with him anymore. Back on my own, I started filling out the permit paperwork, and I had no idea what I was doing. I quickly became very overwhelmed, and I knew I had bitten off way more than I could chew. I worked so hard all summer, running around trying to get things in order. When I wasn't sleeping or working, I spent most of my time in my car, driving from one meeting to the next. At this point, I had no money for my contest, and I couldn't see how this was ever going to work out. I remember going home and being so frustrated that I had to just take a day and decompress. After getting counsel from friends and family, I decided to postpone the contest. I was so disappointed in myself. All my efforts up to this point had no meaning. Furthermore, beyond this being a giant waste of my time, I had marketed myself to business owners as a professional young adult, and none of my words came true. I was so upset. I felt like a stupid 17-year-old high school student with a dream that was never going to come true. I took about a month break before returning to this idea in the fall of 2017. I was determined to finish what I started, so I began working with a different Christian surfers group. It was here that I met John Lindsley. John is one of the founders of the Christian Surfing Federation, and he has been putting on contests for many years, including his own surf series. He had a lot of wisdom and knowledge to share with me, and I took all of his advice. I set the new contest date for March 17th, and I began doing little things along the way to work towards my goal. Unfortunately, life happened, and by the time January rolled around, I didn't have much progress to show for my work. Upon this realization, I met up with John, we sat down, filled out all the permit paperwork, which I had to revise many, many times before the final product was deemed acceptable. This was an arduous task because the city needed very specific details, and I didn't quite have those figured out yet. I then began making a sponsorship proposal, and John made a one-sheet, basically stating who we are, what we're trying to do, and how people can get involved. I also reached out to surf companies by phone call or email, asking for their support, donations, or sponsorship. In the end, I never heard back from a single one, but through friends and connections, I managed to link up with some people who were stoked on what I was doing, and they were able to donate products. We had Dakine, Cobian, Real Salt Life, Degree 33 surfboards, San Diego board shops, and WSL gear. I went around town collecting these big brown boxes and putting them on the floor in my room, and I remember thinking it was way more than I ever thought I could get. I kept asking around for help, to seeing if anyone was willing to donate or participate in any way, even after being shut down time after time after time. One of my close family friends came up to me and told me that his boss might be willing to sponsor my contest, and he spoke to him on my behalf. After about 2 weeks of talking back and forth, the allotment of $1,000 was donated. I was so happy and amazed that my contest was actually going to happen. I made up a flyer, and I began getting the word out through social media. I also went to 3 different Christian Surfers chapters and told them of the event I was putting on and asking for their participation. I also put flyers in surf shops from Encinitas all the way to Oceanside. Many of my friends supported me in this process by reposting on social media or getting flyers out in their schools. A week before the contest, I got word from Julia about how much the contest would be to put on. It was still a little steep for what I was able to manage, being that we were a week out from the contest date. So instead of having the contest at 7 a.m., like I had originally planned, by putting it on at 10 a.m., we would save ourselves $600. It just so happened that that check we received covered the contest fees in whole. I was so thankful that the financial aspect worked itself out to the dollar amount, and now I could focus my efforts on other aspects of the contest. That Monday before my contest, people slowly started signing up and sending me entry forms that I had put up on my website. By Wednesday, we had 8 people signed up, and by Friday, we had 35 to 40 people signed up. I took all this information, put it in a spreadsheet, and sent it over to John so he could make the heat sheets. The night before, I barely slept. I remember waking up at 6 a.m. before my alarm went off, putting on some warm clothes, and getting in my car to head down to the beach to meet John. To my dismay, it was raining. And not the light Carlsbad sprinkle we get every spring, but it was like this huge bucket of water had dumped on the earth. And this was the only thing that could have possibly deterred my contest from happening at this point in time. There was no other option than just to push through and keep going. So I began taking things out of John's trailer. We initially had 3 people that helped set up, but by the time we were done, 2 hours later, we had 20 people who had helped set up. The rain finally stopped, and the sun started coming out as people started arriving. I was so thankful that the weather finally cleared up because this meant people were more inclined to come participate and check the event out. We had a raffling station set up under an Easy Up and a concession station next to it where you could buy donuts and coffee. Heat sheets were posted on the board, jerseys were lined up on the pole, contestants were checking in, judges were briefed, and the horn for the first heat blew. I could finally breathe again. The whole day went on beautifully, with some fun waves and a great amount of people from the community coming out to support. The judges even took turns rotating out so they too could compete in the contest. Heats ran all day, and so did the fun. We even had a PA system set up, where we had music playing throughout the beach the entire day. This is also how we announced our raffle ticket winners and thanked our sponsors. When heats were done running, we rallied everyone together to give out prizes and announce the winners. Everyone had such a fantastic time, and the contestants were stoked on the goodie bags that they won. Each goodie bag had a value of $75 to $150 worth of product. When all was said and done, there was a large group of people that stayed to help tear down, and that was all done in about an hour. I was so proud of what we had accomplished. I realized towards the end of last summer that this was nothing I could have done on my own. But because of friends, sponsors, family, and coworkers, this was all possible. I pushed through even the hardest of times because I knew this was something I was totally capable of doing. I have been competing in surf contests since I was in 8th grade, and I knew what it would take to put on an event like this. It had been a personal goal of mine to put on a contest for the last few years, and I wanted to see if this was something I was actually capable of doing. My takeaway from this experience would be to find a way. I worked for 1.5 years on this project, and there were so many times when I wanted to quit and say, well, I tried, there's my project. But after I saw the fruits of my labor, I knew that everything I had worked up to at this point was worth it. Every bit of paperwork, every hour of time spent, every meeting I went to. We ended up raising over $1,200. I was so thankful that I could be a part of this experience and given the opportunity to make this happen. This was one of the most impactful things that has ever happened to me. So many people had such a great time that they asked me to make this an annual event. And that's my hope, to continue this project going year after year, to continue to get the community involved. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anya.
I'm Sierra Fuentes.
Anthony Alfaro.
Nice to meet you. And tell me what inspired you to do this project.
So we had been part of the concession stand our junior year, and we saw this as a huge opportunity to raise money for the athletics department. And so the end of our junior year, we actually saw only Sierra and I were the only remaining concession crew people there helping out. And so we saw this as a huge letdown because if we leave school the next year, the concession stand would possibly die.
Yeah, and the problem is, like, every purchase that we make from the concession stand goes directly back to the athletics program. So it's this constant stream of revenue that would just be lost if it didn't keep going. So we decided to take it in our hands and make it self-sustaining, so that way it would continue to make revenue for many years to come.
What impact have you seen?
Well, we've seen a lot of people that have genuinely taken interest and, like, taken over. So honestly, we're seeing our project unfold, you know, like, we're seeing people take it into their hands to make it self-sustaining. So it's just, like, a really good feeling that we get to see it work, you know? So yeah.
And have you expanded the program at all, or have you kept it traditional concession stand?
still kind of remained traditional in the sense that it still functions the way how we had it in the beginning. However, it's more of a student-run thing where in the beginning we had Miss Hatter, who was our supervisor. She kind of directed it, but ever since we adapted it as our project, we kind of took over, so it's now more student-run with minimal parent or like volunteer interference with it. So it's more like we barely have an adult in the building, whereas in more traditional stands in other schools, it's usually held or run by parent volunteers or like staff who do it just on like a volunteer thing.
So, do you two have a parting message for the community?
Join the concession stand.
Oh yeah, if you're a senior, not a senior, if you're a freshman, junior, sophomore, we'd love to have you. You know, the concession stand has benefits like community service, you get work experience, but also, like you said, you build those connections with other students or staff, and you kind of get to leave an impact within the school.
What a creative business venture. You know, I'll be sure to grab some refreshments sometime soon. You know, speaking of creative business ventures, our own Carter Peterson has devised a unique solution to the problem that runs deeper than a simple breathalyzer test. Please welcome to the stage, Carter Peterson.
From the beginning of high school, I've loved physics. It was a final reality check that I really needed to spark my passion for learning. So when the Genius Project was introduced to me, I knew exactly what I wanted to pitch. I called it BLIP, and it stood for Basic Learning for Young Physicists. It was an after-school program where I could teach physics to lower classmen without all the chaos of homework, formulas, and notes. It was the best idea that I had for sparking passion in others, as well as strengthening my own. But I didn't really know where to start with this project, so I pretty much just threw it to the bottom of my barrel, and I lived my life like any other teenager would, doing nothing. Now, senior year rolled around, and BLIP was nothing but a crippled mess. It seemed pointless to try to revive an already dead idea, so I started scraping around for a new one. My fourth year was also the introduction to the engineering department's program. We were randomly placed in groups of 4, and we had to try to figure out a problem in American life. After finding that problem, we were given 32 weeks to design, prototype, and test a solution to that problem with nothing more than a crisp $50 bill. Through my passion of engineering, this was going to be my new genius project. Over 10,000 people are killed every year due to drinking and driving, and more than 1.1 million arrests were made in 2015 alone that were related to DUIs. And according to the CDC, a designated driver takes on the responsibility of taking home an average of 3 people on any given night. But here's where my team found the danger. In a study done by Loyola and Boston University, over 17,000 students were polled across 140 American campuses, and they were all asked about designated driving in their life. Of those 17,000 students, 40% had polled to being a designated driver at least once in their life. And of that 40%, 23% had polled to having a drink while being a designated driver only once. But it gets worse than that. 37% had polled to having a drink while being a designated driver on 2 or more separate occasions. 12% had polled to binge drinking while being a designated driver once, and 5% had polled to binge drinking while being a designated driver on 2 or more separate occasions. For those who don't know, binge drinking for an adult male is 5 drinks in an hour, and for an adult female, it's 3 drinks in an hour. I want you to look at these statistics and notice that there's still a pattern of mixing drinking and driving. And this pretty much defeats the purpose of what it is to be a designated driver, to get people home safely without being under the influence of alcohol. This was our problem, and our goal was to lower these statistics by actually prohibiting fraternity drinkers from even turning the key. Now, there are many ways to find the blood alcohol concentration, or BAC, of an individual. Our team tried oximeters, blood tests, breathalyzer units. And before our idea could go public, we had to follow some very careful criteria. The product needed to be accurate, sanitary, and actually keep people safe from drinking and driving, just to name a few. But the most important specification we had to follow was sanitation. We didn't want something that everyone would be sharing bodily fluids through, and that's what we had to follow very carefully. Our team decided to use a breathalyzer unit, but we still had that problem of people placing their mouths and sharing germs through a shared bit. So in order to tackle that issue, we ended up creating our own passive breathalyzer unit. And this allowed for no contact between the user and the interface, and this kept them safe from germs. After many solutions and careful consideration later, our team came up with what we call a modular breathalyzer lockbox. The modular section allows for an owner of a fraternity house to only have to purchase one breathalyzer interface as seen on the left. That breathalyzer interface can be connected to as many boxes or locking bays as we call them as needed for the specifications of the fraternity house. A smaller fraternity house only needs that one breathalyzer unit and is only a minimum of 9 bays. A larger fraternity house, once again, has to only need that one breathalyzer unit, but can connect on as many bays as they need in units of 9 for their specific needs. Now, the designing was my portion of the project, and I needed to make sure everything fit together just right. I used a program called AutoCAD, and this really helped me when it came to actually putting the design on paper, or in this case, on a computer. Over the summer, the engineering department had purchased a laser cutter, and this greatly accelerated the prototyping process of our entire project. But before we could play with those awesome lasers, we first needed a design. What you see behind me is the final production that I came up with myself. It's 76 specifically cut pieces with over 500 of those cut movements. I wanted everything to fit together almost like Lincoln logs, woven at the corners for easy construction. This woven technology also greatly increased the structural integrity of the unit, and this protect the computer that was housed inside. After assembly and hardware installation, the final product you see behind me is what we had. The way how it works is a designated driver will come up to the unit and select a bay. Then they will scan their thumb and place the keys inside. The bay will lock, and the designated driver will go on for their night of partying. After coming back, they will scan their thumb again before blowing into the breathalyzer unit. If they have alcohol on their breath, the bay will lock for an additional 2 hours or until they are sober. If the initial blow means that they are sober, the bay will unlock and the designated driver can get their keys and drive home safely. In the near future, our team wants to kickstart the idea, get some funding for it, and actually put this idea on the market to start saving lives with the solution that we have come up with. To take away, the engineering department allowed me to pursue and develop a passion with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But I didn't cruise through this either. I learned a lot of valuable skills that would greatly set me above anyone else in an engineering interview. I learned how to AutoCAD, which is a really big requirement for any engineering profession, and I taught myself through my failures and along each step of the way. But the one thing I will never forget from day one is learning from where I'm stuck. Many students in the Genius Project found themselves between a rock and a hard place. Most of those students just gave up, turned around, never looked back. Other students found where they were stuck and pushed through their problem with their passion and got to their goal of success. There are people in this world that have one passion, and that's all right. It's like a screwdriver or a pair of scissors or even just a can opener. Each tool has one specific job and it does that job very well. But when given a task outside what it can do, it gives up, turns around, gives that job to someone else who is more capable. Me, I see myself with multiple passions, finding where I'm stuck and moving through my success, not through the problem, but around it through a separate passion. I feel like we're all on that path of passion. Since before we can remember, we've always been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that question has continued through our lives, pressuring us to find one passion and to stick to it, basically limiting us to only one tool for success. Now, I can't speak for all of you, but I can for myself when I say that I'd rather have a Swiss Army knife in my pocket rather than just a screwdriver, a pair of scissors, or a can opener. Keep your mind open, let your passions build, and may your toolbox be plentiful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anya.
Hi, Emily Vitek.
So what was the beginning stages or your first step in your project?
So I knew I wanted to create a STEM convention for girls in Carlsbad. So over the summer, I drafted a proposal email and I researched a bunch of companies that I thought would want to partake in my event. And then I basically just sent out my email to all these companies and hoped for the best. And I was lucky enough to have 12 of them respond. So it kind of all worked out, surprisingly.
What was your proposal or your goal for these companies?
Yeah, so basically I asked them to come and create kind of like a booth where they would be demonstrating things that they perform at their company, certain tasks that they do as far as if they were science-based company, math, engineering. I kind of included a lot of different companies so that the girls that were coming to the convention could have, you know, a round experience and not just have one specific pathway to look to. So I basically just wanted them to demonstrate something and have it be interactive for the kids, not, you know, like a lecture or any type of thing, but something where they could get their hands dirty and really interact with the professionals.
So what were some of the interactions that you witnessed?
Yeah, so Thermo Fisher Scientific brought virtual reality. So we had a lot of little girls really interested in that. That's like a huge trend now. So the virtual reality station was huge. We had students interacting with lab animals, and they were fake, but you know, the little girls thought they were real. So the lab animals, they were learning how medicinal testing involves rats. They were learning the different properties of chemicals. We had girls trying to build towers with little blocks and, you know, seeing the physics as far as balancing and stuff like that. We had a drone company talk about new drones and drone technology. What else? We had satellites. So Booz Allen Hamilton brought satellites as well as Viasat. So that was really cool. So basically everything. I mean, you name it and it was kind of there. If it was in the science area, I kind of had it covered. So that was good.
Sounds amazing. So obviously it had a great impact. How do you think that impact is going to... how deep do you think that impact is in those girls' lives?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's huge. When I was little, I didn't really know I wanted to go into science until I was maybe older and had a more defined definition of what I believed was something I was interested in. But as far as like exposing girls to science, it doesn't really happen that early. You know, boys have Legos and building blocks and stuff like that. But little girls are more into Barbies and dolls and stuff. That wasn't something I was really interested in when I was little, so I kind of wanted to give these girls another option as far as something that they might take interest in.
All right, wonderful job, Emily. I know that you inspired many of those girls to get into STEM. Raising awareness can come in many forms. For Emily, it was through a fun and interactive camp. For others like Brittany, however, it is through the power of words. She can really put the pen to paper, and tonight she'll be showcasing her very own story about mental illness and LGBTQ individuals. Please give a warm welcome to Brittany Miller.
I'm gonna have to level with you. I really liked the Genius Project. And I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I heard about it day one, and I was like, oh heck yeah, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I was gonna write a book. Nay, I was going to outline, write, edit, and publish a book. I was gonna do it in 2 years. I was gonna work tirelessly. Nothing was gonna get in my way. But when was the last time a Genius Project one is planned? First though, I feel like it's important to tell you why I chose to write a book. To do the one thing teachers grimaced at and recommended against in later months, and I'll tell you, it wasn't on a whim. I didn't freehand any of this. It started when I was born. No, I'm just kidding. It started when I was about 18 months old, and I said my first word, diaper if you're curious, and I just never shut up for the preceding 17 years. It started when I was in 5th grade writing a completely ridiculous story about 2 girls going on an adventure with the baby they were the unintentional and untested guardians of. It started in 8th grade when our teacher told us to finish a story we'd read about a lady and a tiger, and mine ended with the lady riding the tiger off in the distance with the man she loved in tow. It started freshman year, writing a book about a school full of teenagers with superpowers, but somehow none of these superpowers could save them from their depression, anxiety, or backgrounds of abuse. It started junior year when I came out as gay. And I know that last one's totally incongruous. It doesn't fit with these other things about storytelling and writing your own story, except it changed the narrative. If I had realized the reason I didn't like boys was because I liked girls, I might not have gone looking for books and movies about girls who liked other girls, and I might not have realized there's approximately 3 of these books and movies. Total. 10 if you want to count the ones where they die at the end. And 20 if you want to include the ones where the producers tell you they're just very good friends. You can't just watch the same 3 movies, read the same 3 books over and over. You start to want more. More quantity, more quality, more diversity. So you write your own story. And I've been doing this ever since I was little, ever since I was an infant who just could not stop saying the most profane words she could get her hands on. Ever since I was in 5th grade, writing a completely ridiculous story about how to deal with a child you weren't prepared for while I went through the aftermath of my parents' divorce. Ever since I was in 8th grade, finishing a story about a lady overcoming the norm and conquering the beast meant to kill her while I struggled to find a place I felt at home in any sense of the word. Ever since freshman year, writing a story about kids who could destroy anything except their own depression while I went through bouts of depression myself. Ever since junior year, hearing about a chance for a new story and thinking, well, there's one problem I can fix. So forgive me if I was disturbingly excited for this project, if I was weird and I didn't groan or complain or worry what the flying heck I was going to do, if I was different. And I'll forgive you for not being excited about my project, for not even really understanding what I'm talking about and thinking, didn't that one show just add another queer character? For being different. We're all different, we all need a story, but I need to tell you what I did in addition to why I did it. Passion, impact, challenge, all that. So what did I do? Well, I started with a whole bunch of different things that all just kind of climbed into the mixing bowl. My stepsister's enlistment in the army, teenage girl's inclination for romance, and a haphazard fondness for the concept of pen pals, and what I got was a love story between 2 girls, writing letters across hundreds of thousands of miles. Excitement was at fever pitch. I was outlining and writing blog posts about my ideas, and then I paused. And a pause was all that was needed for the fever to break. All the intoxicating adrenaline from the previous months dissipated like mist in the morning. I regrouped. I researched. I discovered outlining a book can take weeks. Writing one can take months. Publishing takes years. I had outlined in 2.5 weeks, but had yet to write more than a handful of passages. I was halfway through the time allotted for the Genius Project, and I wasn't nearly where I needed to be, and there was no way to speed up as exponentially as I needed to. Coming down from the high of effortless and endless creativity, it was clear as midday sun I could not accomplish in time all that I had set out to do. I've been given this one chance to do what I love, my profession in school, and to be held accountable by someone other than the FBI agent monitoring me through the laptop camera, and I had failed. I'd been given a chance to create something brand new, and I had failed. I'd been given a chance to show the world, I am not like you, but I still exist. And I had failed. So the pause reduced to a rest, which slipped into a silence. My biggest flaw was how long I waited, shuffling my feet. Could I do this? Would I do this? Should I do this? And then the summer of 2017 hit, and I decided I was not so weak as to trip, fall, and stay on the ground. I wasn't doing this project for the challenge, not primarily. I was doing it for the passion and the impact. I couldn't lose sight of what I wanted out of life to create for a moment of weakness. I couldn't let all those people watching the same 3 movies, reading the same 3 books over and over, continue to see themselves as different, others separate, because I felt inadequate. I was doing this to learn my craft better. I was doing it to give myself and people like me another face in the media, no matter how small. This stumbling block was the challenge, and the challenge would not overcome me. I'd failed, undoubtedly. But it was not my first time. It was not my last, and it would not overcome me. So I stood back up, started talking again. I knew I couldn't finish this in time, so I reframed my parameters. Maybe I wouldn't have time to publish. Maybe I wouldn't even have time to start from scratch. So I reached back, and my hand came back to me with that idea from freshman year. School full of superpowers, and it's still not enough to save them from themselves. This idea was more realistic for my time frame. I knew it like my middle name, and I could write it faster because of that. There was still the representation I loved about my other idea, but less of the pressure of starting over with a blank page. I could still make a statement, still show the world my differentness, my extra, as my mom calls it, but I could do it in the time I was given. So I started writing again. I had it outlined in less than 2 weeks, and I was writing daily, making informational blog posts for new writers. And then I tripped again. Or more accurately, my whole family tripped. And by tripped, of course, I mean we moved. Nowhere out of district, but there was nonstop chaos. My parents went out of town for a month, and I had to run interference between my brother and sister and keep the house running besides. And even when they got back, there was nonstop construction that left me without a door or even consistent power or Wi-Fi. I hardly had time to write, not to mention I was so stressed I couldn't sleep. It was wearing, grating, drawing on me. I'd been given this one chance, and I could feel the defense of a moment slipping into the excuse of a silence. So I put my foot down. I put a bedsheet on my door, and I asked my family, don't talk to me or ask anything of me for a few hours a day, and I wrenched my body back into my desk chair and contorted it into habits it was entirely too nervous to feel comfortable resuming. And now, finally, here we are. After working tirelessly and letting nothing get in my way, I finished my book on April 25th of this year. Thanks. But what did I learn? I learned not to procrastinate. That failure is okay, but like I said, I wasn't doing this for the challenge. I learned about myself. I can and will do what I set out to. I don't take well to the ground even after a fall, but more importantly, I learned to expand my perspective, to look at different things and to look at things differently. If someone were to ask me, 30 years from now, it's one thing I remember about the Genius Project, I would tell them, I learned to be different intentionally, and to write to tell a better story. We're all different, and we all need a story. I'm just hoping I can fill in some of the gaps, one page at a time. Thank you.
What an empowering story. You know, writing a book is not easy. And the fact that she was actually able to do that just shows how much of an advocate for change that Brittany really is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief 10-minute intermission. Be sure to grab some refreshments, and if you haven't seen it already, check out our Senior Wall of Fame, where you can see all of our Seniors Project throughout the year. All right, guys, I'll see you in 10.
Raise money to donate. I hosted an open mic night for students to participate in.
My idea was to create workshops for the younger high school students and teach them the do's and don'ts of high school.
I developed an app to make it easier to find our pets.
I created a mobile app connected car seat to prevent heat stroke among kids.
I worked with the younger cheer team to promote good sportsmanship and positivity.
I designed a social media platform for kids with medical complexities.
My goal is to document our military veteran scars and the stories behind them.
I wanted to learn more about music production and use that to make my own songs.
I created a high hiking club to bring people together for a wonderful time while enjoying the outdoors.
I made cards for nurses and veterans in the VA hospital. I created a club on campus about mental illness and body positivity.
I built an outdoor educational facility for the Agua Hediondo Lagoon Discovery Center. I created a nutrition guide for my community.
I created a breathalyzer lockbox to keep people from drinking and driving.
My genius project was about helping others perceive the way they look about themselves.
I taught kids about car maintenance and engines, conveying skills that they can use in everyday life.
My idea was to host a giant sports day at Sage Creek High School.
I taught karate to a girl with cerebral palsy. I'm going to help children at an orphanage in Egypt for 2 weeks. I proved that honey kills acne bacteria and am making honey-based acne treatment products. I ran a basketball camp for local 3rd to 6th grade girls in Carlsbad. I reinvented a Vietnamese dessert.
I made a game with friends to entertain our community.
My project was to learn to compose music, then produce it and upload it to the online musical community.
For my genius project, I asked people to collect the free toiletries from hotels so I could donate them to a local shelter.
My idea was to bring joy to those who need it most.
For my genius project, I regulated and managed social media for my friend's clothing company.
I taught kids English in Thailand. I filmed my experience learning bouldering to encourage others to find their passion.
We produced a monthly podcast and corresponding blog posts in which we discuss our opinions and spread awareness about different social issues. My genius project was to construct a garden of California native species that increased the biodiversity of the surrounding environment. For my genius project, I did career workshops for students to learn more about their passion and explore what they're interested in.
My genius project was to create hiking videos to share my own experiences and to encourage others to chase their dreams and to live a fulfilling life.
For my genius project, I created a solar system walk on the Lake Calaveras trails outside our school. I gathered shoes for kids in less fortunate countries in South America.
For my genius project, I gave an in-depth lecture on World War I to the 8-year-old kids.
My genius project is centered on making and learning about food while feeding the world both new foods and a new perspective. My genius project is learning
seats, we'll go ahead and continue on to the second part of the evening. Once again, we're going to go ahead and get started as everybody goes ahead and finds their seat. Go ahead and get seated again, please.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious.
Once again, if everybody can go ahead and start taking their seats. Flash the light.
Gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. It's my skin. Well, fire away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricades. That's what we become. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. Oh, we are glorious. And the sharpest words wanna cut me down. I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out.
White frost on the whole floor.
This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. This is me. I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is me.
I'm dancing all the time. 24. Oh, goodness, God. Okay. Excuse me. Welcome back, folks. Let's keep the momentum going. Has anyone seen where Brad is?
Sorry about that. There was a really long line for this really cool van out there. And
Oh, a real life challenge. I'm messing it up.
Hey, you
There's
know
no
what?
hope for you.
That is a real life challenge right there. You know that? And oftentimes, the only way to get through a real life challenge is with a little bit of hope.
I guess you're right.
But sometimes, that hope, it's really hard to come by. So for her project, Chloe Easterbrook found a way to provide some much needed hope for some patients with Parkinson's. Please welcome to the stage, Chloe Easterbrook.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chloe Easterbrook, and this is Hope as a Catalyst. How do you climb Machu Picchu? One step at a time. Hope shows you the end of the tunnel, the possible success, the possible change. What change would you bring if you had the chance? Isabel Espina once said, "You can't predict when or where inspiration may strike. Even the smallest day-to-day decisions that we make might serve as stepping stones to future innovation." My hope, definitely leaning on the more realistic side, was to bring a passion of mine to others to benefit them. At first, I thought of a dance camp for children, but as a member of dance team, I knew that that would be an easy in. Ms. Chrisman, my dance teacher, urged me to do something that posed a greater challenge to me. From there, I asked myself this question: what can dance really do for someone? Is it just exercise? Is it also a cathartic release of emotion, nonverbal communication, and a way to strengthen your brain? Amazingly enough, yes. This mix of beneficial attributes intentional movement has on our bodies and souls should be applied in all of our lives, but for some, it's a little more crucial. Parkinson's is basically a neurodegenerative disorder that affects balance and movement and shows itself in tremors and limb rigidity. But the effects aren't always physical. It can manifest into depression, apathy, a range of sleeping disorders, and cognitive impairment. As of now, there's no cure, but you can try to mitigate its worsening. According to the Department of Neurobiology at Harvard, moving through your body to solidify patterns strengthens the cerebellum and coordinates balance, actually altering brain function. It can improve memory and neural connections. My project was based solely on the hope that I could ease those symptoms in an enjoyable way. Dance has more beauty to it other than the physical. In pantomime, this means let's dance. Parkinson's patients can be nonverbal. Dance has the power to cultivate meaning that they can share with others. This becomes imperative for communication when their body starts to fail them. The movement of muscles in their faces becomes unused. Although they are completely there mentally, rarely does one regard them as such. They aren't truly seen. When I'm talking to you now, you see the genuine furrow of my brow or the relieved smile that paints my lips as I recite my lines more or less correct. They don't have that minuscule body language, and it's so vital for easily expressing yourself. Can you imagine how lonely that is? You can't. I can't. Dance has the transformative power allowing anyone to become anyone they want, to do anything they want, and to say anything they want. Dance involves both social and mental effort, simulations shown to reduce the risk of dementia, improve mood, cognitive skills, and visual recognition. There are so many hidden benefits. So, let me tell you a little bit about my internship at Tri-City Wellness, an experience I'm so lucky to be a part of. Their Parkinson's-focused programs are only a recent development, ranging from the dance classes I participate in to strength training sessions. My internship at Tri-City Wellness revealed to me a new hope. I've seen the subtle differences in growth that reveal themselves in only a few months' time. Over a course of these few months, I've seen quiet, wheelchair-bound dancers who only hesitantly try the choreography given become active participants who engage with the class more, moved out of their wheelchair, and now join us standing at the bar or in the middle of the room with only a hand for support. This was a lesson for me in never giving up. Never giving up on the hope that you can do anything you want. You don't have to play with the cards you're dealt. You can say, screw this, and make your own cards. You can wake up and kick butt. These dancers are warriors fighting against their own bodies, and it's so empowering just to watch, and I'm so grateful to be there helping guide their success. One of my favorite things to hear during our Wednesday practices are the self-reported improvements that the dancers feel. One of the weekly participants, Gary, really enjoys the classes. He says they help lessen his muscle rigidity and pain. So since he seems to really enjoy these classes, he agreed to joining me on stage today for a little demonstration of what we do. We try to incorporate patterns that go against what the body naturally wants. It's a great way to think differently and strengthen some of the brain functions I mentioned earlier, like memory. Thank you so much, Gary, for joining me on stage today. Thank you. My internship was a catalyst for hope. It shows me the vast importance of taking care of your body, keeping in touch with yourself, and allowing your comfort zone to be pushed. Allow yourself to be open to new things. Allow them to permeate your soul and color something new found inside of you. Find things to hope for. Once you do, nothing can stop you. Not even tremors rippling through your muscles, even on the mornings you can't get out of bed. Once you have a little bit of hope, no matter how small, the world better watch out. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anya. Hi, I'm Sophie. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
so
you.
describe to us your Genius Project in 1 or 2 sentences.
So my Genius Project was basically to try to bring a way for the citizens of Carlsbad to enjoy a wood-burning bonfire pit on our beaches, since that's no longer allowed. It was banned a few years back, so I'm just trying to bring that back.
So what was your end goal ultimately?
To make an impact in some sort of way, whether that be I actually got the wood-burning bonfire pits on our beaches, or like I learned the process is difficult.
And what inspired you to do this project? Or what inspired your idea?
So I've been going to the beach like my whole life, lived in Carlsbad my whole life, and I know that I've had so many fun memories and just personal connections with people over a bonfire, and so I really wanted to bring those back, and I wanted to make them available for the common people. And since they were banned, I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity for me to take what I love, the beach and people, and bring them back together to Carlsbad.
And what was the greatest challenge throughout the whole project?
I would definitely say communication. It was very, very difficult to get in contact with a lot of people because not a lot of them want to listen to you. And you have to call one person who then makes you call another person, and then it's just like an endless line of people that you have to contact to get to the person that you want to talk to. And then to get them to listen to you, you have to keep them engaged. So that was difficult.
So despite all these difficulties, what kept you motivated?
I just was really passionate about this project, and so I think my passion definitely drove me to continue to try to communicate with these people and just try to be relentless, because I know that if you just continue to frickin' pry at them, they'll eventually have to respond to you. And so going in, I knew that, and so I was like, all right, if I just keep on going and keep annoying them, hopefully they'll give me a response.
What have you learned?
I've learned that it's very difficult to communicate with people, and I've learned just a way of presenting myself in a form that they're gonna be able to respond to. And so just how to present myself over the phone and in person when I talk to these officials, how to keep their respect and how to keep their interest and how to form my phrases so that they can help me with my challenges.
All right, great job, Sophie. You know, her project may not have come to light, but the passion and drive for her project still kindles in her heart. For some, there's passion in fashion. Tifty Clothing Company is an upcoming brand started right here in our Carlsbad by our very own Jonah Varelli. His proceeds will be going towards the San Diego Youth Organization. Please give it up for Jonah Varelli.
When I was in 6th grade, I was shy and scared of the unknown. This made me want to avoid interactions. That didn't happen. My brother and I were bullied throughout our childhood. He was bullied because of his appearance, and I was bullied because I was his brother. We both reacted in different ways to the bullying. I chose to ignore the bullies and keep my head up. My brother decided to push away his problems and try to solve them with drugs. He started using in 7th grade and slowly started to use more and more. His drug use peaked in freshman year when he dropped out of high school. One day, I came home and saw my brother sitting in a chair, freaking out, yelling and shaking. He was saying to my mom that he felt like there was a clump in his throat and he couldn't get it out. Yet, there was nothing there. My mom was crying and on the phone with 911, and shortly thereafter, he was picked up by an ambulance and taken to the ER. He had taken the wrong path. My mom got me a babysitter, making me not be able to see my brother. This killed me. Even though we weren't the best of friends, we were still brothers. I sat outside with my babysitter all night waiting for him. I asked her questions and she would tell me nothing. Finally, my mom came home and told me what had happened. She told me that he had gone into psychosis, and he came 2 hours later. When he came to from psychosis, he became my inspiration to always keep pushing through the tough times. For some reason, he continued to use drugs after this. He was in and out of 3 different rehabs. He wasn't living with us for a 3-month span, and I could only visit him for a couple hours every few weeks. He was getting help to choose the right path. I didn't really know what was happening because I was so young. I asked questions and I would get no answers. I couldn't sleep some nights because I would have nightmares about my brother. But as I got older, I started to understand more. Now that I am older and know the actual story, I understand everything. When I heard about the Genius Project, I knew I had to dedicate it to him. I would make money in some sort of way and donate it to San Diego Youth Services. This charity helps youth in San Diego that are orphaned, abused, or abuse drugs. This was the perfect charity to donate to. I now had to figure out how to make money, at least $1,000 while only being a 16-year-old junior. A lot of ideas came in and out of my mind, from projects costing $20,000 to ones that wouldn't impact the community in any way. I knew I wanted to make my project show who I was and what I was all about. With this all in mind, I remembered my idea about Tifty. I would make a clothing brand to raise money for the charity of my choice. Tifty came about from a mistake I'd made in front of my friends. Whenever we were all hanging out and someone wasn't invited, they would say Tifty, spelled in the way as TFTI, thanks for the invite. I had no idea it was spelled like that. So one day, I wasn't invited to my friend's birthday party, and I sent in chat, Tifty, T-I-F-T-Y. That was a big mistake, because from that day on, I haven't heard the end of it. They still to this day make fun of me, in a good way, of course. So I set out to prove that I could make Tifty a well-known brand. I contacted my mentor and designer to help me figure everything out. My mentor is a silkscreen artist located in Oregon that helped me create my shirts, and my designer is a video game creator that I've known my whole life. With this all in mind, I set out to make my project a success. In junior year, I was going strong for about 2 weeks. I had everything figured out and then got the teenage mindset and got lazy. I didn't start my project again until first trimester of senior year. First trimester rolled around and I started it all up again. I ordered the shirts, made a website, and reached out to many people pushing me out of my comfort zone. When I got the shirts, I sold out within a week. I never thought I would sell out that fast. Everyone was asking about my shirts. I'd order more, And when I got the second batch, I sold out again. I'd reached my $1,000 within 2 weeks of ordering my first shirts. I never thought that would ever happen. The reason I finished so fast was because of how passionate I was and how well my marketing partner did. Brandon Strander ran the social media account and told everyone at Sage Creek to buy my shirts. I donated the money in March and was on a local Spanish news station as well, which was great because there was finally good on the news, inspiring people and helping the community. After finishing my project, I look back at the rough times I had as a kid and think about what could have gone differently to make me happier. And every time I think about it, I realize that I wouldn't change a thing. My brother is clean and sober, living in Oregon, doing the best he's ever done. I created a clothing company at the age of 16, and I've never been happier, making my life the direct definition of the quote, "Everything happens for a reason." Having a rough childhood, being strong and maturing early, making clothes, pitching my idea to random people I've never met, pushing myself out of my comfort zone. All things that have happened or I had to do. I never thought any of this was possible. Every step I took towards finishing, I doubted myself that much more. Then it hit me. I realized that you're most creative in an uncomfortable situation. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone will create a situation you have to show your true self, making my project a true representation of me. As a YouTube group, Yes Theory says, "Seek discomfort," a saying I will live by for the rest of my life, and I invite you to do so as well. Thank you.
I'm Anya.
I'm Riley.
Nice to meet you. So, what inspired your project?
What inspired my project was I really like photography and journalism, so I really wanted to use that when I was thinking about a project. And then I just had to pick something that I could use it for to make a difference in my community. So I picked the topic of homelessness because San Diego County is known for having a really high homeless population, especially youth are really under-resourced and undercounted. So that's why I really wanted to focus on that for my project.
And what was your goal with this photography mission?
So what I did is I went out and took portraits and did interviews of homeless youth in our community and shared their stories to raise awareness. So my main goal was really just to educate as many people as I could about the topic and encourage people to find ways to get involved, whether it be donating or volunteering or just changing their mindset.
Will you continue something like this in the future?
Yeah, I'd love to keep using my photography skills and journalism skills in college and the future to keep getting involved in my community. I'll definitely continue community service for the rest of my life. It's always been a big part of myself. I'm studying photojournalism in college, so I'll definitely be improving my skills there too.
What organizations did you contact?
I worked with two main ones. The first one is Stand Up for Kids in Oceanside. I visited their center a few times. They're like a drop-in nighttime center for youth in Oceanside. They like serve dinner and give clothing and things like that. And I got to interview a lot of the kids there, which was really cool. And I also visited San Diego Youth Services, which is up in San Diego, which is for a little bit of an older age group, probably around under 26, but most of them were older than 18. And they help with a lot of job resources and clothing and showers and things like that. So they were an amazing organization, and I'm really glad I got to meet a lot of people there as well.
Do you have a parting message for the community?
Probably just to never make assumptions about people, because you never know what's going on in their life, and everyone has a story. And so always be kind and respectful no matter what the circumstances are. And if you can, get involved, volunteer, donate. It makes a huge difference, even something small.
Truly an impactful project. You know, Riley has done an excellent job of communicating her cause through these pictures. You know, communication is it's a big part of our lives, and literacy is a very important part of that communication. So for her project, Tina Stanley expanded her club, Leaders in Literacy, to multiple elementary schools in the area. Please give it up for Tina Stanley.
Many years ago, I fell in love. It started with words that formed sentences and filled pages, becoming books and novels. My love grew to include numbers, biology, philosophy, social sciences, and continues still to flourish. Outside of these walls, I'm still a student, and I always will be, because I will never lose my passion for learning. And it started with words. I learned to read when I was 2.5 years old. There was nothing else for a kid to do in Shreveport, Louisiana. My parents were in residency, so I spent my days with my Iranian grandparents, who spoke to me almost exclusively in Farsi, tossing some English in here and there. After their hours at the hospital, my parents would pick me up, take me home, and read with me. Every night we would read together, and eventually I learned to do so on my own. The first book I remember adoring was a book about space. It was a big book, written textbook style with lots of pictures of the planets and the stars. It sparked my love of science. Soon, I began to play with microscopes, telescopes, and chemistry sets, and I read and I read and I read. Elementary and middle school were filled with book after book, and I imbibed knowledge from the world around me as I grew older, realizing I wanted to spread this love of learning to the community around me. When I was in 10th grade, a few friends and I started a club at Sage Creek called Leaders in Literacy. We started out thinking we would teach young kids at Calavera Hills Elementary School how to read. So I contacted an old teacher of mine, and we began working out the details. The club switched tracks a little bit, and our new mission was to encourage kids to read, engage them in their learning, and spark a love for education in them. The program began meeting once a week in my 3rd grade teacher's classroom, reading to and with 1st and 2nd grade students. Junior year came around, and the teacher we worked with at Calavera was no longer able to host our club. So we reached out to the Carlsbad Educational Foundation's Kids Care After School program at Pacific Rim Elementary School. We met with kindergartners every Tuesday and started drawing with them in addition to the reading. Their art allowed them to personalize some aspect of the book or topic, and we gave them the option of keeping their drawings or giving them to me to take home. My initial plan for my Genius project was to create a book of all the drawings the students let me take, to publish it online, sell it to community members and to parents, and donate the funds to the Carlsbad Educational Foundation. Week after week, however, less than half of the kindergartners would relinquish their art to me. And the process of publishing and selling the book turned out to be far more complex than I'd ever imagined. So, for a little while, I gave up. Not on the club, of course, or on its mission, but on the idea that my club could be anything more than a tiny, quiet organization with a small reach and a small impact. I figured we were already making at least somewhat of a difference, at least to those 20 kids we worked with every week. But I always wanted to reach more people, to impact more young members of the community. So when senior year began, I brainstormed ways to do so. Naturally, I waited until college application season was over before I set my plan to expand Leaders in Literacy into motion. But by mid-January, I had arranged after-school reading programs at Calavera Hills, Pacific Rim, Hope, and Kelly Kids Care. Meeting every week on Monday through Thursday, we now work with over 100 elementary school students, each of which will be getting an entire booklet of every drawing they've done at our meetings at the end of the school year. In addition to becoming more engaged in their reading and learning, the students are creating something by which they and their parents can remember this portion of their lives. They're never too eager to part with their drawings, but when I remind them that they'll be getting an entire booklet of all their work in just a few short months, they always seem to brighten up. If you are truly passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work. During the week, almost all of my free time is devoted to this club, whether it's meetings, organization, planning, or communicating. I've grown to notice, however, that I don't mind spending my time this way at all. I love working with the kids. I love picking out books for them, giving them drawing prompts, helping them choose colors and spell words. Because of my passion to spread that love of learning I found so long ago, I was able to recognize that even when my original project fell through, that I still wanted to stick with this project and somehow make that bigger impact. Because I loved the project so much, no obstacle could stop me from reaching my goal. My journey brought me to working with 4 elementary schools, pitching to dozens of peers, welcoming almost 30 new members, which is a lot in a high school club, meeting over 100 elementary school students, and spending about 6 hours per week with our new students and our new volunteers. But my journey brought me something far more important than all these facts and figures. something real. A few more places to visit when I fly home from college. 100 new smiling faces in my life. Faces I look forward to seeing every day after school. Faces that never fail to make me laugh or to make my heart melt when they run over to give me a hug or when they shout goodbye. My journey brought me to something that gave high school a deeper meaning than just a stepping stone on my way to university. It gave me something to pour my heart and my soul into. And though I know the club will continue to meet long after I graduate, it gave me something that will be beyond difficult to leave behind. And it all started with words. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anya.
Hi, Logan.
So, what is your background with ASL?
I grew up seeing it. My mom was an interpreter, so I could sign before I could speak, so it was definitely a heavy influence on me growing up.
And how did you want to spread that to other kids?
Well, freshman year, I wanted to take French, but it wasn't offered, so I took ASL, but because I had grown up seeing it, I kind of had an advantage over the other students. So I saw that they were struggling and they just didn't enjoy the class, so I wanted the transition of learning a new language for freshmen to be much simpler and more enjoyable. So I reached out to the middle schools to see if any kids would want to learn before they started high school.
And what was there much enthusiasm in the middle schools?
There was. So I did my project junior and senior year. So junior year I had like 50 kids in one class, which was crazy. And they all seemed really excited, and they'd all come up to me and say that they wanted to take sign language in high school, which was my main goal. But they just seemed happy, and it could definitely, you could see it was a place where they felt like they all had something in common.
Great. So how did the results of the project make you feel? How do you think they're going to extend past your graduation?
My definite hope is that when I pass the ASL club down to either a sophomore or a junior, that they continue to teach more students, that the program at Sage builds and the awareness of the deaf community builds as well.
How was it like teaching people who are both older than you and much younger than you?
They had the same kind of energy, which was kind of interesting, because you'd think an adult would be much more confident, but they were all just like the same. They were like super nervous the first couple classes, and then they got more confident, and then they asked more questions, and it was just awesome to see them. I could definitely see how teachers say it's awesome to watch students grow, because just in like the few classes I had with them, I could definitely see them improving and getting more and more excited.
So did this project influence at all like your career goals?
It definitely made me want to become an interpreter. I want to major in criminal justice, but it definitely made me want to be an interpreter too, because I love the language and I definitely want to share it with other people and communicate with deaf people, because they're pretty awesome.
Great work, Logan. Providing our middle schools with the means to learn about ASL is a great way of changing perspectives. The same goes for our next two speakers, who are changing the world one craft at a time. By making and selling such spectacular crafts, Brianna and Jazzy are preventing human trafficking with the money that they raise. Please, give it up for Brianna Yang and Jazzy Chen.
Around last year, the only thing I was really sure I was passionate about was children. I want 10 kids, and I was kind of salty about the Genius Project, so for my pitch, I got up in front of the class and said that I was going to become a teen mom for my Genius Project, and that I was going to document my progress on a blog. I almost gave my physics teacher a heart attack, so instead I sat down and I made a list of everything I'm good at, all the things I know how to do. I can run while hula hooping, I can recite the entirety of the Monty Python and the Holy Grail transcript, and I'm pretty good at Kahoot. But unfortunately, none of these interests really serve the greater community. At the end of my list was my ability to make pop-up cards, which I thought was at least a start.
While Jazzy was wallowing in her state of mental confusion, I cut straight to the chase and focused on one of the key passions I've had since I was little, making crafts. Although my love of sewing and crochet isn't nearly as exotic as Jazzy's pursuit of Kahoot, I knew from an early age that making things with my hands is my strong suit. So naturally, it seemed like the perfect idea for a genius project to somehow use crafts to better the community. My only problem was that creating something like a craft fundraiser was going to take more than 2 hands to tackle.
Luckily, I have 10 hands. Hi, I'm Jazzy Chen.
And I'm Brianna Yang.
And through our half-Asian mental telepathy, we independently came up with the same idea to sell crafts for charity for our genius project. Thus, Half and Half Crafts was born. The name is both a reference to our biracial makeup and the division of labor between us in creating the crafts.
When we decided to work towards a common goal, we conquered one of the most daunting aspects of the Genius Project, finding an idea and actually committing to it. Now, the commitment part wasn't so much of a problem for us because we were both really excited to elevate our crafting and DIY skills beyond just being the ultimate Christmas elves. This is still a really fun job, but as we began to move forward with planning our fundraiser, we realized that it was going to take more than a few balls of yarn to create the impact we desired. We needed something beyond a project that would just make us feel good about making crafts. So Jazzy and I researched organizations that were fighting for causes we were passionate about, eventually deciding to donate the money we would make from our craft sale to an organization called For Freedom. Now, For Freedom is a charity that helps young women in Thailand break free from the red light district.
For those of you who don't know, the red light district is a place in Phuket which is a hub for trafficking, prostitution, drugs, and basically any other sin you could conceive of. Believe it or not, just telling girls to stop being prostitutes isn't very effective, so they teach them useful skills like how to cut hair or how to bake so that they have a permanent solution to their employment problem. Our mentor works with For Freedom in Phuket.
What captured my attention about For Freedom is how it helps these young women become empowered as they learn useful trades to give them a better life. Each time Jazzy and I would sell a craft, we would be helping one of those young women find self-esteem, be confident in her talents, and escape harm. Now that was the community impact we desired.
In the middle of the summer, I actually got to go to Southeast Asia and visit our mentor in For Freedom and see what they were up to. I got to participate in their salon nights where they meet the girls exactly where they're at and they do their hair and their makeup before work and they develop genuine relationships with the girls so that they actually want to leave their current careers. Being there, I got to have really intimate interactions with them and do things that I never thought I would have been able to do before, like pray with prostitutes. And coming back, I was just set on fire for our cause because I realized it's really, really hard to live in Southeast Asia.
Once Jazzy got back from Thailand, we both got to work on creating the crafts for our fundraiser. Being the ambitious people we are, we decided to make 12 different types of crafts, ranging from mini book boxes to jars of stars to paintings to crocheted Christmas stockings. Aside from the struggle of not ever wanting to leave Michael's on our shopping sprees for materials, we faced a lot of difficulty when it came to mass producing all of our crafts. Though Jazzy does have 10 hands, it took us a lot longer than expected to create enough crafts for a full fundraiser. After an entire summer of folding origami stars and battling runaway globs and Mod Podge, though, we had a full craft inventory and we were ready to start selling.
Christmas time is the season of giving, so we thought it would be most strategic to sell our crafts around the holidays as holiday gifts. So for the entire week before Christmas, every day at lunch on the academic mall, we sold crafts in this little booth we put together during my TA period. We had a very organized system of pricing that we had created over the summer through sending out surveys and data analytics. But as it turns out, people are much more willing to pay high prices online than they are in person. So this cost $8 at the beginning of the week turned into how much are you willing to give me for this?
As the extremely practical one, I was kind of worried about the system of pricing, as we had priced all of our crafts with a specific profit in mind. When only a few people came by our craft table at lunch the first day, and even fewer people actually had money with them, you can guess that I had a mini heart attack. But we received numerous promises of, oh, I'll definitely buy something later in the week. We really hoped those people would follow through, but we needed something more to pull people into our craft table.
Nothing gets people in the giving mood like Christmas carols, and unfortunately, Bree wouldn't let me belt "I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus" a cappella, so instead we set up a speaker and took holiday song requests, and it really got everyone in the giving mood.
The music really helped us communicate to the school that we were there to sell crafts, help a good cause, and spread some holiday joy. By the third day of our fundraiser, those people who had promised to come back actually kept their word, and even the campus monitors bought some Christmas cards and paintings to support our project.
To our utter shock, we raised over $600 for Freedom and ended up with many happy customers. We were so successful that we were going to do a similar sale in February so that people could buy gifts for their Valentine's gifts for their significant others, but let's face it, Sage Creek High School is a lonely hearts club and no one wanted to buy anything, so this is the end of our Genius Project.
With our Genius Project coming to a close, Jazzy and I realized that although we shared the same interest in crafting, we ended up with very different takeaways from this 2-year journey.
If I take nothing else away from the Genius Project, it is that you can take literally any interest you have and craft it, pun intended, to serve the greater community. Just simple contributions like giving 2 girls on the academic mall a couple of dollars for a sleigh made out of Kit Kats really add up over time. Problems are always way bigger than you think, but we can work towards the general direction of a solution, one craft at a time.
For me, the success of our Genius Project meant that I had a bit of entrepreneurship under my belt, a renewed love for my hobby, and a way to help others that I'll certainly continue to use in the future. I realized that even the smallest hobby can be transformed into the most inspiring vessel for good. I mean, my hobby for crafts began in preschool. I can guarantee that my 4-year-old self had no idea that my then juvenile hobby would become my way of helping others. And it's not exactly part of my career plan at the moment to be a full-time crafter. I mean, my friends know me as the girl who's going into biomedical engineering, not the girl who's making and selling crafts for a living. But you know what? That's okay, because the fact that I have diverse interests doesn't devalue those passions that don't seem to fit in with the rest of my life. Even our small, incongruous hobbies have worth, especially when we use them to help better our communities. And for me personally, I know I'll never let go of crafting, even if it means being the only 18-year-old in college who loves knitting and crocheting for her roommates. So don't be afraid to be that engineer who also loves to rock out on the guitar. If you're like me, don't be afraid to whip out those knitting needles in between studying for calculus classes. Don't be afraid to harness your small, seemingly out-of-place hobbies and craft them into your own unique way of helping others. Because somewhere out there, there's a person who needs you, unique hobbies and all. Thank you.
What an impactful project. You know, it really goes to show that even the most unique of hobbies can make a difference in our world.
As we've seen tonight, all of our students have brought to us something that is really innovative, and we would love to commemorate their journey right now.
So to close tonight, we would like to bring up some very special guests. Last year's Symposium speakers really set the bar of what the Genius Project Symposium was all about. Tonight, we have 5 of those speakers here with us.
I can't see with the light. I'm very sorry. In a moment, we'll be inviting them up to pass on the torch, so to speak, to our current symposium speakers and spotlights. Each speaker and spotlight will be given a plaque to commemorate their journey today. Please welcome the 2017 symposium speakers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bo Prince,
Callie Ball,
Julia Zwick,
Madison Sorensi,
and last but not least, Heather Feldman.
And now, let us bring out our 2018 symposium speakers and spotlight.
Come on up, don't be shy, come on up. Now, our 2017 Symposium speakers will hand off our 2018 students with their honorary plaques. Come on up, Spotlight. Stand right here.
Don't be shy. Let's go. Woo!
Right here, up in front.
Don't be shy. Let's go.
All right, so now our 2017 Symposium speakers will hand off the honorary plaques to our 2018 Symposium speakers and spotlights.
Alexis McBride,
Tyler Jung and Daniel Moran.
Camden Miller,
Anthony Alfaro and Sierra Fuentes.
Carter Peterson,
Emily Vitek.
Brittany Miller,
Chloe Easterbrook.
Sophie Troya,
Jonah Varelli. Oh, there's the applause right there.
Riley Cornwall,
Tina Stanley.
Logan McAndrews, who is not here.
She'll take it.
I am now Logan McAndrews. Thank you.
Logan McAndrews, everyone. And last, but certainly not least, Brianna Yang and Jazzy Chen. We are all capable of innovating amazing and spectacular things in this world. As demonstrated by our speakers, even the most strangest of projects can make a difference in our world.
That's right. There's an I in innovation for a reason, and it starts with each and every one of you. Innovation prepares us to take on challenges big or small, and maybe start something new, something fresh.
So whether it's starting that business you've always dreamed of starting, or even just building a simple lemonade stand, don't be afraid to go out there, find your passion, and find the innovator deep inside of you.
So go out there, build some lemonade stands, and get those creative juices a-flowing.
Thank you all so much for coming out
And
tonight.
have an amazing, innovative evening.